So I've mentioned plot holes in the Harry Potter series a few times in a few different videos on my channel, and every time I mention it, I get a few requests to make a video on the plot holes in Harry Potter. I've never really thought much about it because it just seems like a daunting task. But then I recently posted a video called My Unpopular Harry Potter Opinions, and in this video I mentioned again the plot holes in Harry Potter, and I had an overwhelming number of requests to do a video on it. So here I am, I'm doing a video on it. Now this is not going to be an exhaustive list of all the plot holes I could find in the entire series, just because that would be a really long video. So I'm not going to talk about the minor plot holes or the super frequently discussed plot holes. I'm just going to mention one major plot hole in each of the 7 books. So we're going to be discussing 7 plot holes throughout this video. But before we get started, real quick, just want to mention we are going to be talking about book canon. I know that a lot of people consider every word ever written by J.K. Rowling as canon for the Harry Potter series. That's fine, I respect that opinion, but that's not what this video is going to be about. We are discussing book canon. So any plot holes that J.K. Rowling has filled after the fact through Pottermore or through her tweets, we're not discussing here, but feel free to discuss those more in the comments if those are platforms that you follow her on. The other thing that I want to mention before we get into it is that if you happen to be very sensitive about people who are critical to the Harry Potter series, this video probably isn't for you. This is going to be a nitpicky video. I'm going to talk about plot holes. So if that sounds like something that would upset you, probably don't watch this video. So here we go, 7 books, 1 plot hole per book, starting with book 1. In the end of the Sorcerer's Stone or the Philosopher's Stone, Quirrell goes after the stone. The way he does that is he sends an owl to Dumbledore from the Ministry. It is an urgent owl saying that they need his help now. Dumbledore rushes off to go save the day and then promptly decides he isn't needed there, so he turns back around and comes back to rescue Harry before he dies. Or after he passes out. I don't think Harry would have died with or without Dumbledore there, but Dumbledore at least took him out of the 3rd floor traps and where Quirrell was currently dying. Anyway, here's the issue. The kids run to find Dumbledore in the afternoon time, and McGonagall stops them and tells them to basically go back to their rooms because Dumbledore has already left. He is flying to the Ministry. Then the kids wait a few hours, sneak out after it's bedtime and they're not allowed to be out of their corridors. They sneak to the 3rd floor, pass all the obstacles, and get to Quirrell. Are you already seeing the problem here? Why did it take Dumbledore hours to get to the Ministry? Why did he choose to fly at all? Sure, you can't operate in Hogwarts grounds, but you can if you take a step outside of Hogwarts grounds, so he could have just walked to the end of Hogwarts grounds and then apparated into the Ministry. He could have used Floo powder. He could have used his Phoenix to transport him there, as he does in another book. I don't quite understand why he chose the slowest method of transportation to fulfill an urgent request from the Ministry, and then when he realized, you know, I should probably be back at Hogwarts, not here, he chose the slowest route back. I mean, he could have popped over to the Ministry, realized nobody actually wanted him, and then popped back in a matter of minutes, and then, like, you know, not had the whole issue of kids getting clubbed over the head with chess pieces and almost getting poisoned and burned to death and killed by the Dark Lord. I understand that at some point Harry says, I think Dumbledore wanted to give me the chance to try, but I feel like he could have done that without, you know, being on the opposite side of the country and, you know, being apart from the children entirely. Book 2, Pipes. This is actually one that one of my subscribers commented on my Unpopular Harry Potter Opinions video, and I have not been able to get it out of my head. The basilisk! It's a large creature, and it travels the school through the pipes. How large are these pipes in these walls? I mean, are all the walls in the Hogwarts castle a mile thick? Do you have to walk a mile just to get from one classroom to the next classroom? I mean, you'd only be able to do like 3 classes a day because you would take an hour to get to your neighbor class. Imagine if you had to go to like a class that was 3 doors down. You'd be walking 3 miles. Who designed this castle? Who did the plumbing? Why would they have such giant pipes that they could fit this basilisk that he could just travel through the walls and like send Harry on a wild goose chase that first time that he stumbles on Nearly Headless Nick and Mrs. Norris? Like, why are these pipes so big? Why did nobody complain that it's taken them so long to get through these ridiculously thick walls? Book 3, the Secret Keeper. Everybody likes to talk about the Marauder's map whenever they talk about plot holes for book 3, but I want to talk about secret keeping. So our whole story starts off with Harry's parents being killed because they went into hiding and they needed to enlist a secret keeper, which, if you don't know, is someone who knows the secret location of something and then no one else knows of the location except for the people involved and the secret keeper. So if any outside party would want to know where the location of the secret thing is being kept, they can't get it. There's no way of attaining it unless they go through the secret keeper, and the secret keeper willingly gives up the location. It is book canon that the secret keeper cannot be forced to give the information. It has to be given up willingly. So in book 3, Sirius explains that James and Lily wanted Sirius to be the secret keeper, but Sirius convinced them to go with Pettigrew because he didn't think that Voldemort would expect Pettigrew, and he was afraid that Voldemort would get to Sirius and try to torture the information out of him. But that's the whole point of the secret keeper. You can't get the information out of him unless that's willingly given up. So was Sirius actually just concerned that he would turn on his friends? But we'll talk about secret keeping even more later on. So I said I'd come back to this point, but for whatever reason I didn't. The thing with Sirius itself and the secret keepers isn't a plot hole. It just doesn't really make sense. The point of a secret keeper is that the information can't be forced from you, but Sirius is afraid that the information will be forced from him. It's just a little bit fuzzy and confusing, but not really a plot hole. The reason I added this into the video is because of something that we learned in book 7. When Bill Weasley, when he and Fleur go into hiding and he tells them that he is his own secret keeper for he and Fleur, which basically reveals that the third party of the secret keeper isn't necessary whatsoever. So that's why I consider it a plot hole, because it deems the whole thing with Sirius and Peter completely pointless. At one point, Sirius talks about how incredibly loyal James is and how he's so friend-focused and all that stuff, so you could argue that he included his friends because that's just his nature. But the reality is, the man's life is in danger. He's trying to protect his wife and his child, who are also in danger. There's no way he would include a third party that will 100% make the plan more flimsy and more likely to get everyone murdered. The thing with Sirius is strange and doesn't really make sense, but it becomes a plot hole in book 7 when we get this information that makes the whole thing redundant and means that either James or Lily could have been the secret keeper themselves, and they all could have stayed alive. So the thing that the whole book is based on, the thing that kicks off the entire story, essentially doesn't even make sense. That's why I consider it a plot hole. Okay, we can move on now. Book 4, Truth Potions, or Veritaserum, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm actually not sure. In book 4, after the Triwizard Tournament, which is a whole nother discussion, Barty Crouch Jr. is found out to have actually been impersonating Mad-Eye Moody this entire time by taking a Polyjuice Potion and hiding Mad-Eye Moody in a trunk so he can pluck his hairs out for the Polyjuice Potion. The way that they get all this information and more out of Barty Crouch Jr. is by using this Truth Potion, forcing him to take it, and then he basically spills all his secrets. Naturally, you would think that if this potion is available in the wizarding world, it would be used a little bit more frequently. Like, possibly, when several of Voldemort's Death Eaters came to the Ministry after Voldemort was vanquished or disappeared and said, I was being controlled by him, I wasn't doing it willingly, I'm not guilty. And then the Ministry said, yeah, alright, why not give him the Truth Potion? Why not make sure that, you know, they're not lying and they're not secretly just waiting for Voldemort to come back in power and kill everyone. Number 5, the Trace. So we have to go back to book 2 for the origin of this one, when Harry is at the Dursleys' house and Dobby shows up and does the hovering charm, causes a little bit of mayhem with the Dursleys, and then an owl is promptly sent with a warning to Harry reminding him, hey, you're not allowed to use magic outside of Hogwarts. Putting aside the fact that Petunia probably should have already known that he isn't supposed to use magic outside of Hogwarts because she had a witch sister who lived in a Muggle household who wouldn't have been allowed to use magic outside of Hogwarts. Putting that aside, the issue with the Trace is a little bit fuzzy. So the rules of the Trace are witches and wizards who are underage have the Trace on them, which basically just means if any magic is performed in their general vicinity, then they're basically accused of having used magic and they get a warning or they get expelled. If a minor is growing up in a wizarding family, then the Ministry just leaves it up to the parents to keep those rules. So there are inconsistencies with this throughout really all the books, but most of them are done in book 5, which is why it's in the number 5 slot. but I had to write this down because it was too much. So in book 5, first there's Mundungus apparating and then disapparating around Harry. Nothing happens. Then Harry uses the Patronus and the letter arrives. Mr. Weasley tells him not to use magic at any point. Then some people come to get Harry out of his house. Tonks uses Loomis, and she packs Harry's trunks using magic. All of this happens around Harry in a Muggle household. This is all supposed to be done without the Ministry knowing about it, yet none of that magic counts somehow. Then you've got book 4, when Arthur comes blasting through the Dursleys' chimney so that he can take them to the Quidditch World Cup. Not to mention when Tom Riddle kills his father and then blames it on someone else by performing a memory charm, all while he's underage, but the Ministry never knows. So in all the books almost, there's magic performed around Harry, but it never counts unless it counts. Book 6. All the conversations between Morphin and Marvolo in the Pensive, where Dumbledore is showing Harry all the memories so that he can explain all he knows about Tom Riddle and he can speculate what he thinks Tom Riddle's motivations were and so on. All the conversations between Morphin and Marvolo, almost all of them, were in Parseltongue, which Dumbledore doesn't speak. So I'm curious about how Dumbledore was able to understand the conversations. I'm sure some of it can be left up to speculation, kind of assuming what they're saying, but there's some detailed information that Dumbledore knows that was given through Parseltongue. And at least in the books, there's no explanation as to how he got that information. Also, this isn't a plot hole, but I'm just throwing this in there. We learned about the unbreakable vow in book 6, when Narcissa requests that Snape performs an unbreakable vow with her that he'll protect Malfoy. I just don't really, this isn't a plot hole, I'm just talking now. I just don't really get why Voldemort didn't, make all of his Death Eaters do the unbreakable vow that they would never leave him or turn their backs on him. Because he's notoriously not trusting. So I don't really get why, but that's fine. And last, in book 7, after the wedding, Harry, Ron, and Hermione apparate away from the wedding because some Death Eaters come and ruin the party. And they end up in a Muggle coffee shop where 2 Death Eaters show up and they have a little battle. After these 2 guys are knocked out, Hermione says that she has never performed a memory charm before. But just earlier on in the book, she performed a memory charm on her parents. She took them out of their memory so that they didn't have a daughter anymore, and then somehow convinced them to move to Australia. Now, throughout the series, we see Obliviate being used in multiple different ways, not just to erase a piece of memory, but to actually change their memory. Obliviate is used in a lot of different ways. So I just don't really understand why it's not considered a memory charm now, but it was then. Just seems like she already performed a memory charm on her parents a few scenes ago. Okay, so that is my video on Harry Potter plot holes. There are a lot more. There's a lot of minor ones. There's a lot of major ones. I've discussed some with you guys in the comments of other videos, which I'm loving. Harry Potter is one of my favorite series of all time. I've read it since I was a kid. I reread it regularly. I'm in the middle of a reread right now. I love the Harry Potter series, but books are written by people and people mess up. So books have plot holes. So this isn't meant to trash Harry Potter. It's just fun to discuss things, and Harry Potter is a series that we love to discuss. I wasn't planning on making a plot holes video, but it was requested so many times that I finally just did it. I'm definitely not trying to trash the series. I love the series. But if you do enjoy hanging out and talking about plot holes, be sure to talk to me in the comments about some plot holes that kind of stick to you in your mind or that bother you. I would love to hear more. Also, I'll leave some articles down below of where I found some of these plot holes and where you can kind of explore and discuss even more plot holes. And keep in mind that the YouTube algorithm can't tell the difference between a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Every interaction is considered a positive interaction by YouTube, so if you hated this video, be sure to leave it a thumbs down. It really helps to support the channel. I post videos every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, so I will see you again very soon. Bye.